Part 31. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 302. Two choices, naturally there will be two results. The first option is to reveal the Delugo aura carried by one's own power, so that the heaven in this world can sense it and retreat, eliminating all disasters and smoothly and safely breaking through to a higher realm. The second option is to hide the gifts of the Great Road and the aura of Delugo in the body, so that the heaven in this world will not notice it, and bring down a more powerful heavenly calamity, to hone oneself, to gain a higher cultivation level and a more powerful foundation. Generally speaking, in the endless infinite multiverse, when all Delugo break through, most of their closest relatives are the first type chosen. After all, although this creature has achieved Delugo, his close relatives are not necessarily strong. For such a monk, it is natural to choose the first breakthrough method, which is more secure. As for the second method, no one has tried it. After all, there is a great relative, and his status has also risen accordingly. Even if he looks at the entire endless infinite multiverse, he can be regarded as a person of great status. Even if you have an extremely deep and intimate relationship with Delugo, you can even ask Delugo for a few universes and become the king of these universes and dominate everything. As for longevity, there are endless treasures of heaven, materials, and earth in the endless infinite multiverse. Even if the acquired beings cannot achieve Delugo, with the help of many heaven, materials, and earth treasures, it will not be a problem to survive tens of thousands of chaotic years. Tens of thousands of years of chaos can be regarded as an endless lifespan for acquired creatures. Enjoy endless lifespan, and be able to control several universes, become the master of the universe, and dominate everything. Now that we have such a choice, who would choose to risk their lives to break through? After all, if you choose the second path, not even Delugo will be able to interfere. After all, the power of the gift was given by the great Deo. It does not reveal its own power, blinds the perception of heaven, and brings disasters. These are all within the allowable scope of the great Deo. But similarly, if a person who is gifted by Delugo does not show his power and causes a disaster to come, the matter has already reached this point and cannot be changed. Even if Delugo exists, there is no way to intervene in the heavenly tribulations and change the results of these tribulations. Because this is the will of Deo Deo, the rules set by Deo Deo. Since you chose to hide your power and invite the calamity to come, you can no longer attract any external help and can only overcome the calamity on your own. After overcoming the tribulation, you will naturally receive more generous rewards, and your cultivation base will be greatly improved. But if the tribulation fails, it will naturally be wiped out, and there will be no possibility of resurrection. Even if Delugo exists, he can't even think about changing his fate against the will of heaven. Because this person carries the aura of the great Deo in his body, if he dies, the cause and effect will not be contaminated even by Delugo. Unless the legendary Tao ancestor appears and can reverse the Tao and rebuild the world. Otherwise, let alone Delugo, even if Hunyuan exists comes, there will be no way. But now, the ruthless emperor is faced with such a choice. There are two roads, one is bound to life, the other is close to death. How will she choose? Qin Mu's waiting did not last long. Almost less than a breath passed before the ruthless emperor made a decision. Although she still didn't understand what was happening, such a huge power would appear in her body out of thin air. But then a realization arose in her heart, and she knew the two choices she was about to face. And it only took less than a moment for the ruthless emperor to make his decision. Enron breakthrough. There was a firm look in the eyes of the ruthless emperor. In her eyes, she seemed to be able to see a figure that was as indifferent and lofty as the way of heaven. Her goal is to catch up with him. Now, seeing that the gap between the two has grown to an extremely terrifying level. However, the ruthless emperor was not discouraged by this, but instead felt endless determination in his heart. Sooner or later, she will catch up with him. How could the ruthless emperor, who was determined to catch up with Qin Mu and have lofty ambitions, choose the path of Ayn Rand's breakthrough? There is no doubt that what she has chosen is the second path. Boom! The immortal king's chain, which appeared in 9 colors, protruded from the sky, shattering billions of miles of void into nothingness. Even though they were millions of miles apart, ancient King Lotus King and others couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts when they saw the majestic 9-color chains like giant dragons. There is even a sense of stagnation in the mana and soul within the body, as if it is about to be frozen. The 9 seals of the immortal king are hard to resist. The ancient king took a deep breath, his voice full of solemnity. Even with his cultivation level, there was an endless sense of danger in his heart at this moment. The ancient king had a feeling that if the immortal King Jufeng descended at this moment, on him, even he would find it difficult to resist. Not to mention when he was promoted to the immortal king in the past, he would die if the immortal king's 9 seals fell. But now, this woman in white, who was promoted to the immortal king, met the legendary 9 seals of the immortal king. For her, this is definitely a dead end. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 303. The 9-color immortal chain crosses the sky, carrying a scornful and supreme aura that makes everyone who perceives its existence feel cold in their hearts, with a feeling that the end is about to come. What a disaster is this! With such majestic power, even if the real immortal king comes, it will be difficult to resist it. It's too terrifying. Just a million miles away, I can already feel such terrifying pressure. If I had to face it for real, I'm afraid there would be no way to resist it at this moment. The 9-color immortal chain, this is the legendary 9 seals of the immortal king. Among the legends, promotion to the immortal king realm is the most terrifying and terrifying calamity. It only exists in the ancient historical legends of the fairyland, but no one has ever really seen it. Unexpectedly, it appeared today. Even if a real immortal king comes, it will be difficult to resist such a catastrophe. Millions of miles away, many heroes in the immortal realm were talking about it, with a look of horror and panic on their faces. After all, the pressure of the 9-color immortal chain is too terrifying. Even if they are separated after a million miles, they still felt an incomparable feeling of palpitations. But at this moment, the ruthless emperor, who was in the center surrounded by many 9-color immortal chains, seemed very calm. She sat cross-legged quietly, with white clothes like snow and black hair. Her hair was dancing in the wind. The little man sitting cross-legged on top of her head, gathering the power of the 5 secret realms, was just like her, sitting cross-legged, with the sound of chanting sutras flowing around her. There were also phantoms of gods and demons appearing in the sky, kneeling around the little figure, as if praising a supreme being. Buzz! The chains of the immortal king passed through the sky, exceeding the speed of time, without giving anyone a chance to dodge, and directly blocked the ruthless emperor. In other words, this chain cannot be avoided at all, just like cause and effect. As long as it is sent out, it will definitely hit. Endless immortal king chains surrounded the ruthless emperor, and several of them shot out quickly and sank into the ruthless emperor's body, as if she was locked with heaven and earth. Immediately, the chains of the immortal king began to glow, absorbing the power from the ruthless emperor's body, suppressing her soul, decaying her longevity, and swallowing up all the spiritual energy around her. The immortal king's 9 seals ban everything. The chains of the immortal king that could not be avoided were penetrated into the body of the ruthless emperor. As the iron chains were shot into the body, the little man who sat cross-legged on the head of the ruthless emperor like a god gradually became bleak. That is a sign that the power, soul, and everything in the body are blocked. The 5 secret realms in the body are running slowly, and the gods will naturally be affected. The 9 seals of the immortal king are so difficult. When more sealing chains come and completely cut off the connection between the divine residence and the main body, her path to promotion to the immortal king will also be cut off. The ancient king was 9 days away, looking at the ruthless emperor who was making a breakthrough, and couldn't help but sigh. The immortal King Zhifeng is really terrifying. King Xian and King Lian even shook their heads. Before, they only knew the legends about the 9 sealing immortal kings, but had never actually seen them. But now, after witnessing the power of the immortal King 9 sealings with their own eyes, they do you know how terrifying the immortal King's 9 sealings are. Now it's just the beginning. Most of the power, soul, potential, and everything in the woman in front of you has been sealed, and the divine mansion above your head has also become dim light. If the immortal King Zhifeng cuts off all the power channels in the woman's body, causing the god's mansion above his head to have no backup and then dissipates, then the ruthless emperor's breakthrough will also fail. Because the breakthrough immortal in the king realm, what is needed is the god's mansion above the head, which is the legendary 6th secret realm, to break through the shackles of heaven and earth, and to be free between heaven and earth. But when the god's mansion dissipated, this breakthrough naturally failed. The ruthless emperor also seemed to know this. He calmly mobilized all the power in his body to fight against the power of the immortal king's 9 seals that invaded the bone marrow. However, the power of the immortal king's 9 seals that originated from heaven and earth was too powerful. It was too powerful. Even though she was astonishingly talented and devoted all her strength, she could only watch as the power in her body was blocked section by section, and her connection with the god above her became weaker and weaker. And the statue sitting cross-legged above her head, because the connection between the body of the villain and the ruthless emperor is getting smaller and smaller, the little man in Chendi's body has become more and more illusory, and he looks like he will disappear soon. We can't wait any longer and can only force a breakthrough. Seeing this scene, the ancient king shook his head, seeming to have seen the ending. Breaking through the realm of the immortal king, condensing all his power into the thoughts of the gods above his head, and then rushing out, breaking through the shackles of heaven and earth, becoming an immortal king. This is the immortal king, the road to promotion. And now, the god's mind above this woman's head will dissipate at any time. If she does not break through now, when the god's mind really dissipates, there will be no chance to break through. But even if she breaks through at this time, due to the immortal king's chain, it cut off most of the connection between his body and the mind of the god above his head, causing the god to not accumulate enough power, and the power he absorbed was inherently insufficient. How could such a god break through the constraints of heaven and earth and help the body become an immortal king? Therefore, from the ancient king's point of view, this is a dead end. No matter whether you make a breakthrough or continue to accumulate, you cannot escape the fate of failure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 304. There are 5 secret realms in the human body: Will and See, Deo Palace, Four-Pole, Dragon Transformation, and Immortal Platform. By cultivating all these 5 secret realms to perfection, you can reach the supreme peak realm. The true spirit leaps out from the immortal platform and rests between heaven and earth. This is the realm of true immortals. Only when you practice to this point can you find a path. The breakthrough from a true immortal to the immortal king realm is the real chasm. Before becoming a true immortal, even if you are not talented enough, as long as you have enough time, enough resources, and work slowly, you can still hope to reach the peak of a true immortal as long as you don't perish. But breaking through to the immortal king from the peak of the true immortal is different. This is a real chasm. With strength, talent, and foundation, if any link is insufficient, it is impossible to break through. Even some beings at the pinnacle of true immortals have spent endless years and accumulated endless amounts of time, but they still cannot reach the immortal king tribulation, and there is still an incomparably far distance. And now, even though the ruthless emperor has reached the threshold of the immortal king realm with the help of a ray of Deluo's true meaning, She still cannot hide her supreme talent. You know, how long has it been since she just broke through to the true fairyland? Moreover, the true meaning of Delugo cannot be understood by ordinary strong people. Just now, apart from the three immortal kings, the Ancient King, Lotus King, and Xian King, only the ruthless emperor was able to understand the true meaning of Delugo. In addition, all the heroes of the immortal realm present, including several powerful ones at the peak of the true immortal realm, had nothing to gain. This is enough to show the talent of the ruthless emperor. But now, what stood in front of her was a real chasm, a chasm that seemed insurmountable. Qin Mu broke through the immortal emperor realm and received gifts from the great Dao, which gave the ruthless emperor endless power, but at the same time it also brought endless crises. If she chose to reveal the charm of the great Dao in her body, she would naturally be able to avoid the disasters brought by heaven, but she did not. In fact, with the arrogance of the ruthless emperor, this is the only way to go. If she chooses to retreat, how could it be her? Moreover, if the calamity is retreated and she accepts this power, her cultivation level will certainly rise to an extremely high level in a short period of time. But if you want to take a step forward in the future, it will be extremely difficult. Comparing the two, it is naturally reasonable for the ruthless emperor to make such a choice. At the very least, there were no surprises in Qin Mu's judgment. However, Qin Mu had no idea how to help with the difficulties faced by the ruthless emperor. Although ordinary Delugo cannot intervene in such disasters. But he is not an ordinary Delugo. With the help of the system, he can completely simulate the true power of the Supreme and avoid the disasters sent by heaven. But in that case, the ruthless emperor's journey through the immortal king tribulation will naturally end in failure. Therefore, Qin Mu would not choose to intervene unless it was absolutely necessary. However, Qin Mu didn't want to watch helplessly as the ruthless emperor failed to overcome the tribulation of the immortal king. He shook his head slightly, popped out a single finger, and clicked it insignificantly. The seemingly insignificant action did not attract anyone's attention. But in the dark, the long river of time in this world has reappeared for a moment, and in that distant and lost history, part of it has been rippled with waves. History, with Qin Mu's intervention, seemed to have undergone a slight change. Going to fail? The ruthless emperor sat cross-legged, feeling that everything in his body was almost blocked. A ray of enlightenment arose in his heart, but he did not feel the slightest anxiety or frustration. Her heart was clear, and even now, she was thinking of ways to deal with it. However, at this moment, ripples suddenly appeared in the sea of consciousness of the ruthless emperor. A lost memory from the past seemed to have resurfaced and became clearer in her mind. That was a memory from after she was born, a memory from millions of years ago. At that time, she had not yet become an immortal, Emperor Ye Tian was still not around, and Emperor Wu Shi was nowhere to be seen. The man who was always by her side did not reveal his identity as the Lord of Heaven, but was only omnipotent in her eyes. Brother. The gradually clearer memories made the ruthless emperor seem to recall a fragment of time from 1,000,000 years ago. At that time, her cultivation level was not very high, so she once asked Qin Mu for advice on cultivation issues. Is the way of cultivation fixed? We'll see. Dao Palace, 4-pole, Dragon Transformation, Immortal Platform. Can a monk only cultivate these few secret realms in his life? In a place as ethereal as a fairyland, the ruthless emperor curiously asked the man next to him. Of course not. The man turned around with a warm smile and looked at the ruthless emperor. It was Qin Mu. There are millions of divine treasures in the human body. These 5 secret realms are just the 5 secret realms that have been explored and perfected by the world through generations of cultivation and exploration. How can the mysteries of the human body be so simple? However, the practice of these 5 secret realms has been explored by generations of monks and has reached a perfect state. It is almost impossible for latecomers to open up a new path. Moreover, there are no shortcomings when walking along the road to these 5 secret realms. Therefore, generation after generation, cultivating the 5 secret realms has become a common choice for all monks in the world. So that's it? The young ruthless emperor nodded in understanding. At that time, she had just been exposed to cultivation not long ago, so she was naturally convinced by everything Qin Mu said about cultivation. However, when she nodded, after that, Qin Mu looked into her eyes again and said seriously, "Although the 5 secret realms are almost perfect, they are not truly perfect. However, its advantages make up for all its shortcomings. In the future, when you follow the rules and reach the limit on this road, you find that the road ahead is blocked and you can no longer continue on this road step by step. All you have to do is break the barriers and find your own way." Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 305. When you follow the rules and reach the limit on this road, you find that the road ahead is blocked and you can no longer continue on this road step by step. All you have to do is break the barriers and find your own way. Break the barriers and make your own way. The fragments of time gradually became clearer, and the ruthless emperor could even recall Qin Mu's serious expression when he warned him. Is he trying to impress himself? Had he already expected that he would encounter this moment? Like lightning, countless thoughts arose in the mind of the ruthless emperor. Go out of your own way, go out of your own way, but, how to go on this road? She has comprehended all of the 5 secret realms of the human body. The will and the sea, the Tao Palace, the four-pole, the dragon transformation, and the immortal platform. Although Qin Mu told her that there are millions of divine treasures in the human body, it is too late and unrealistic to abandon the 5 secret realms and cultivate other divine treasures now. So, how can I find my own way now? There is a God 3 feet above your head, and trusting the gods between heaven and earth, breaking the shackles of heaven and earth, becoming an immortal king, and enjoying boundless freedom. The ruthless emperor muttered to himself. This is the breakthrough method of all immortal kings in the world. After cultivating the 5 great secret realms to a perfect state, he entrusted the divine residence between heaven and earth, and then used the 5 great secret realms to support the divine residence, and then broke through the constraints of heaven and earth to become an immortal king. But now, due to the existence of the immortal King Zhifeng, the divine residence of the Henren Emperor has been blocked, and it is extremely difficult to get help from the power of the 5 secret realms within his body. This also caused her divine residence to be in danger at the moment and in danger of being destroyed at any time. However, at this moment, a flash of lightning seemed to flash in the mind of the ruthless emperor. Keeping your mind outside and looking up 3 feet to see the gods, this is the way for the predecessors to become immortal kings. But why should I take this path? If you stay outside the divine palace, you will be blocked by the immortal King Zhifeng. If that's the case, why would you place your divine residence outside yourself? There is a God 3 feet above my head, but now the God is no longer there, I am the God. A kind of enlightenment arose in the heart of the ruthless emperor. She suddenly opened her eyes, her breath restrained, and the 5 secret realms in her body no longer gathered strength outwards, but were now contained within her body. And the divine residence sitting cross-legged on the head of the cruel emperor gradually descended under the control of the cruel emperor's thoughts, and then actually merged into the cruel emperor's body, stopping at the position of the Niwen palace between her eyebrows, sitting cross-legged on the 9 layers immortal platform. Above. This takes the god's residence back into the body? Is she crazy? What is this going to do? To return to the divine mansion and return to the body would not even guarantee the cultivation level of the true immortal realm. I'm afraid he was forced to the point of desperation by the immortal King Zhifeng. Seeing the scene of the ruthless emperor taking the divine palace above his head into his body, millions of miles away, all the heroes in the fairyland who saw the scene were surprised and unbelievable. Who doesn't know that after completing the cultivation of the 5 secret realms, they will only by entrusting one's own divine residence between heaven and earth can one become a true immortal. Now, the ruthless emperor has taken back his own divine residence from heaven and earth. Not to mention becoming an immortal king, doesn't this mean he has to give up his position as a true immortal? Not only the heroes of the immortal realm, but also the three immortal kings, the Xian king, the Lotus king, the ancient king, couldn't help but lose their voices when they saw what the ruthless emperor did. They looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. Even these three immortal kings found it difficult to understand their behavior for a moment. However, just a moment later, these three immortal kings seemed to have thought of something, and their eyes were filled with shock. Is she going to find her own way? Immortal King Ju seals off the heaven and earth and cuts off the connection with the God's mansion. Placing the God's mansion between heaven and earth means that it cannot communicate with itself and obtain help from its own 5 secret realms. In this case, simply take back the divine residence and live high above the 9 heavens of Xiantai. This will not only not break the connection with heaven and earth, but also deepen the bond with yourself. More importantly, the divine mansion still exists, the foundation of the immortal king is intact, and everything is still possible. The ancient king took a breath and analyzed it seriously. He had almost guessed the purpose of the ruthless emperor's behavior. But even if he guessed it, he could not help but be shocked by the talent and courage of the ruthless emperor. Of all the prodigies in the past, which one did not follow the rules and follow the path of the predecessors step by step when they broke through to the immortal king realm? Not to mention that they have completely blazed their own path. Even one wrong step would be fatal. And now, this young woman in white is equivalent to completely abandoning the path of her predecessors and truly embarking on a path that belongs only to herself. Since ancient times, people have always looked up to see the gods. But I am different, I don't need to look up. I am the God is me. No matter whether the ruthless emperor can succeed or not. But at this moment, her talent and courage have been deeply imprinted in the hearts of the 3 immortal kings including King Xian, and they can never be erased. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 306. Throughout the ages, all beings who have become immortal kings have followed the path of being a god. Now, the ruthless emperor wants to do the opposite. He no longer places the divine residence outside his body, but incorporates the divine residence into himself, becomes one with the divine residence, and turns himself into a god. Replace the gods with your own body and follow the path of the immortal king again. What kind of pride and courage is this? Millions of miles away, Qin Mu couldn't help but smile as he watched the ruthless emperor take the divine palace outside his body into his body. He knew that the ruthless emperor was extremely intelligent, and with just a little guidance from him, she should have understood what he wanted to tell her. Slightly mess up the history, modify a historical fragment, and it will be rooted in the mind of the ruthless emperor. As endless years pass, she will naturally recall what happened in the past. And with the intelligence of the ruthless emperor, she only needs to remember Qin Mu's advice to her in the past, and she will naturally know what to do. Incorporating the gods into the body and replacing the gods with one's own body is feasible. Qin Mu chuckled, the path taken by the ruthless emperor, naturally it is possible. In fact, there are thousands of methods and thousands of ways to practice in the world. How can there be any definite number? As long as you can get to the end, it's a good path. Moreover, the action of the ruthless emperor actually secretly conformed to the best way of cultivation. There is a god 3 feet above your head. What is a god? During the life of a monk, only if he does not respect gods, does not worship ghosts and gods, only believes in himself, and only respects his own invincibility, can he climb to the true supreme state. However, there is no need to do this after cultivating to the immortal king realm. But if you want to achieve greatness, then you can only do it yourself. Those who are de luo have a lofty status, and are even more worthy of the heavenly realm. They are transcendent from heaven and earth, wandering in endless chaos, and have endless lifespans that will last for all eons. How could such a being believe that there is a God with his head raised up? Even if there are gods, they are themselves. I am the God, and the God is only me. But now, the ruthless emperor accidentally took this step ahead of schedule. It has to be said that this is a great good thing for her, and the benefits are so great that it is incalculable. And just after the ruthless emperor reintegrated the god's residence above his head into his body, the 5 secret realms that were sealed in his body instantly emerged with incomparable majestic power, and merged into the god sitting cross-legged on the 9th level of Ziontai. Inside the body. Previously, there was the blockade of the immortal king's 9 blockade chains. Almost all the power could not leave the body of the ruthless emperor, and it was blocked. But things are different now. The ruthless emperor found another way to integrate the 3-foot-high god into his body and become one with the immortal platform. In this way, the power provided by the 5 secret realms in the body can naturally pass through the body unimpeded and be integrated into the divine residence. And with the continuous influx of power, the divine mansion that had been dim before was now shining brightly, like hundreds of millions of sunrises shining together, instantly becoming the absolute center of everything. The endless sound of chanting and chanting continued to sound on the immortal platform of the ruthless emperor. The various visions that had been all over the void before were now appearing one after another on the immortal platform of Emperor Henrin, surrounding the god's mansion. They were extremely mysterious. If you act like this, if you are not careful, you will not be able to maintain the cultivation level of the supreme realm, not to mention the true immortal realm. Lian Wang looked at the woman in white as snow, and for some reason, he felt a sense of incomparable admiration in his heart. Incorporating the divine residence into the immortal platform in the body is certainly an amazing attempt, but at the same time, it is also an extremely dangerous move. Why, after hundreds of millions of years of practice, do living beings in the world determine that there is a God on the immortal platform? The purpose is to minimize the risk of practice. Because, even in a true fairyland at the peak, even if you fail to break through the immortal king realm and the god's mansion is damaged, it is just a failed attempt at most, and there is no other danger. Because the god's mansion has been entrusted between heaven and earth, it will be damaged, but it will not affect the monk's other 5 secret realms were damaged. Even if the god's mansion was robbed and completely destroyed, as long as the 5 secret realms still existed, it would only take a long time of nourishment to cultivate a new god's mansion. But what about the ruthless emperor's current actions? But he sent the god's mansion into the body and placed it in the secret realm of immortal platform. In this way, if there is any problem with the god's mansion, not only will the breakthrough to the immortal king fail, but many other secret realms in the body will also be damaged. In this way, it's not just as simple as failing to break through the immortal king realm. If even the immortal stage secret realm is affected, then the realm will even fall back to a point where it is worse than even the supreme. What's more, if Sendai is seriously damaged, let alone the realm, even his life is difficult to save. That's why King Lotus has such admiration. Do ordinary true immortals dare to try this? As long as they fail, they will be doomed. Those who practice endless time, finally have the true immortal realm. The cultivating monks may have long lost the courage to move forward. In their view, even if the breakthrough fails, they will at most be in the hopeless immortal king realm and can still maintain their current cultivation and status. But if they take such a risk, not to mention the immortal king, even the hard training before would probably be in vain. This kind of attempt is completely unsuccessful and it will become a benevolence. Thinking of this, King Lotus couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook his head. Originally, he was still thinking, if the ruthless emperor can really make a breakthrough and create an unprecedented path of cultivation, can this method be implemented in the immortal realm? But now that I think about it, this is basically impossible. Because if you want to use this method, those who can break through this method must be extremely decisive and truly talented. For example, those true immortals who have lost their vigor, even if they are told about this breakthrough method, no one would dare to try it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 307. Soldiers make dangerous moves and make desperate moves. At this moment, King Lian couldn't help but have such words pop up in his mind. The breakthrough method of the ruthless emperor is obviously not suitable for other true immortals. Because this is really too risky. If you are not careful, not to mention the immortal king realm, even your current cultivation level will not be preserved. For those true immortals who have practiced for tens of millions of years before reaching their current level of cultivation, such behavior will not easily kill them. Buzz. Above the 9 heavens, the 9-color immortal king chains stretching across the void were trembling more and more violently, probably sensing that something was wrong. And new immortal king chains are constantly being generated from the void and absorbed into the body of the ruthless emperor. And with the intake of those chains, the power in the ruthless emperor's body began to operate more and more difficultly. Even just providing power to the Sendai secret realm has become increasingly difficult. This is the terrifying part of the immortal king's 9 seals. Even if she takes the god's palace back out of her body and integrates it into her body, she still cannot escape the immortal king's 9 seals blockade, but it's just a little easier than before. Moreover, as time goes by, not only the power, but also the soul and others are showing signs of being blocked together. The immortal king chains traversed the body, and gradually began to wrap up the 5 secret realms into one. It looked like they were going to completely surround the 5 secret realms, completely cutting off the source of power in the ruthless emperor's body. If this continues, it will still be impossible to achieve a breakthrough. The ruthless emperor Fu Ling had such a thought in his mind. She knew that with the current speed of the immortal king's 9 seals, it wouldn't take long before all the 5 secret realms in her body would be blocked. By then, except for the immortal stage secret realm, in addition, the other 4 secret realms cannot provide power for the god's mansion. By then, only the god's mansion supported by the Sendai secret realm will become a sourceless water. It won't take long, even if all the water in the Sendai secret realm is taken away. All the power was provided to the god's mansion, but it still could not provide enough power. It seemed that just doing this step was not enough. The ruthless emperor knew that she had to make a decision early. Because the 9 seals of the immortal king couldn't help but ban her. There are even signs that her soul and thoughts have been sealed. If she waits until then, she may really be powerless. Millions of miles away, Qin Mu watched all this silently. The so-called finding a new path is not just as simple as moving the god's residence into the body. What is a completely different road? Breaking and then building, being different, that is the road that truly belongs to you. Qin Mu sighed. The ruthless emperor had just introduced the god's residence from the outside into the body. He was indeed on the right path, but it was not thorough enough. After all, he had just introduced the god's residence from the outside into the body, but he had not actually left this world. This method of promotion still relies on the 5 secret realms to nourish the gods, but the location is different. What Qin Mu said to him before is that he has to take a completely different path. I just hope that the ruthless emperor can realize it earlier. At this point. After all, there is not much time left for her. When you follow the rules and reach the limit on this road, you find that the road ahead is blocked and you can no longer continue on this road step by step. All you have to do is break the barriers and find your own way. For some reason, the words Qin Mu said to her before came back to the mind of the ruthless emperor. Break the imprisonment and go out of your own way. What I am doing now is really breaking the imprisonment and going out of my own way. Looking at the endless rays of the god's mansion on the 9th level of the immortal platform, the ruthless emperor seemed to be thinking. Before, What she had been thinking about had never gotten rid of one shackle, and that was how to preserve the god's mansion. After all, throughout the ages, when all strong men broke through the immortal king, they relied on the existence of the divine palace to break the shackles of heaven and earth and become the immortal king. Therefore, she just moved the divine palace from outside the body to the body, which was just a continuation of the actions of her predecessors. She thought it's just about how to preserve the god's mansion. But how can this be regarded as truly breaking the confinement and walking out of one's own way? At most, it can only be regarded as an attempt at the previous one, and it has not truly escaped from this road. Break the confinement, break. So that's it, I understand. A flash of inspiration flashed in the mind of the ruthless emperor, and she seemed to finally understand something. A smile bloomed at the corner of her mouth that eclipsed all living beings. I finally understand what you taught me. The ruthless emperor murmured to himself, then closed his eyes slightly, and a majestic power passed through her body. Then, in the eyes of everyone in disbelief, that power connected the 5 secret realms and finally gathered together on the immortal platform, completely smashed the divine mansion that stands high on the 9th level of the immortal platform. In an instant, endless golden light bloomed. The divine mansion was shattered and turned into an endless brilliant golden torrent, penetrating through the body of the ruthless emperor, washing away it was absorbing everything in her body, making every particle in her body glow, as if filled with unparalleled powerful power. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 308. Breaking the confinement. What does it mean to break the confinement? Moving the divine residence from outside the body to the body, high above the 9th heaven of Xiantai, is certainly a change, but it is far from breaking the shackles. At best, it is just another attempt on that path. But what the ruthless emperor has done now can be regarded as the real breaking of the imprisonment. If it cannot be broken, it cannot be established. She actually broke the god's mansion into pieces. Does this count as giving up? The god's mansion is shattered, how to break through the immortal king? Confused. If the god's mansion were preserved, there would still be a chance to compete, but now that the god's mansion does not exist, how can one break into the immortal king realm? There is absolutely no hope of becoming an immortal king. After witnessing the ruthless emperor shattering his divine residence and spreading it inside his body, an uproar instantly spread among the heroes of the immortal realm millions of miles away. If we say that the ruthless emperor moved his divine residence outside his body before, when it enters the body, they still doubt whether it will succeed. Now the actions of the ruthless emperor have completely made them think that there is no hope. Throughout the ages, all strong men have relied on the gods to become immortal kings. With the 5 secret realms, the power of God gathered in the god's mansion to break through the shackles of heaven and earth and become the immortal king. This is the only path recognized by all monks. But now, the ruthless emperor has shattered his own god's mansion. In this way, how can he break through the immortal king? I'm afraid it's really hopeless. However, compared to the size of many heroes in the immortal realm, the 3 immortal kings such as the ancient king take a longer-term view. The results presented in their eyes are completely different. The shattered god's palace is integrated into the body. This woman is so courageous. The ancient king couldn't help but sigh. What is God's residence? It's just a symbol of the condensed nourishment of one's own strength. Even if it returns to the body, the power still belongs to itself. King Xian commented. In this way, there was really a glimmer of hope. Shendi is integrated into the endless cell particles in the body. Even though it is difficult to condense, it has broken through the blockade of the immortal king's chain. Every cell and particle in the body is a manifestation of its own God. In this way, the blockade of the immortal king's 9 seals can be truly broken. Lian Wang sighed. However, as a result, the gods no longer condense, it becomes difficult to comprehend the world, and the difficulty of breaking through the immortal king realm increases exponentially. However, it is much better than the previous dead end. Why did the previous monks gather their strength to form a divine residence outside the body? Because only in this way can the barrier between the world and the world be reduced to a minimum, and it is easiest to understand the world without any constraints. In this way, the final breakthrough can be achieved. The binding of heaven and earth, and the way to control the heavens, has become easier. And moving the God's mansion to the immortal platform naturally increases the difficulty of understanding. And like the ruthless emperor, completely smash the God's mansion and integrate it into the hundreds of corpses around the sky. The difficulty of comprehending the world has increased countless times. However, this has advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage is naturally that it becomes more difficult to comprehend the world. But the advantage is that you can finally no longer be chained by the immortal king. It's blocked. There are hundreds of skeletons in the sky, and there are more than hundreds of millions of human cell particles. The mere immortal king chain can only block a few secret realms in the monk's body at most, but it is simply impossible to block all the cell particles. If that is the case, the immortal, there is no need for Wang Zhifeng to exist at all. Because when this calamity comes, it is impossible for any living being to be able to successfully break through. It is a situation of certain death. The heavenly Dao of one realm will never do such a thing, and this is not for what is allowed by the great Dao. If it is a calamity of death, there is no need to do so. No matter how difficult it is, there will always be a glimmer of hope. This is a universal principle for all universes in the endless multiverse. The ruthless emperor shattered the divine mansion into pieces and merged into the billions of particles around him. This step finally led to his own path. At this moment, her limbs and bones, every cell and particle in her body, were like it has turned into the sun, emitting infinite light and heat. And she herself has become more like a sun that dominates the heavens, covering the past, present and future, suppressing the 10 directions, with endless pressure, radiating to an endless and distant place. In fact, King Lotus's guess was not wrong. Breaking the God's mansion and integrating it into the cell particles around the body would make it more difficult to comprehend the world and break free from the constraints. But he forgot one thing. Cruel man, great emperor, his understanding of heaven and earth is actually enough. What she lacks is just the final leap. Moreover, she has already understood the true meaning of Deluo, and Qin Mu has been promoted to Deluo, leading to the infinite power gifted by the Great Road. With the superposition of these two, all the conditions for her breakthrough are already met. Moreover, the endless power gifted by the Great Road, if she had broken through in the ancient way, she would have said nothing. A large part was wasted. But it was different now. She integrated the God's residence into her limbs and bones, and the power also flowed into every cell particle in her body along with the broken God's residence. At this moment, the power bestowed by the great Dao was truly and perfectly absorbed by the ruthless emperor. Therefore, every moment, the aura of the ruthless emperor was rising infinitely upwards. In the blink of an eye, it had even climbed to the level of Ling Xian. Wang Lianwang and others were all stunned by this. Is it possible for her to become a giant in the immortal king realm in one fell swoop? King Xian felt the aura vigorously coming out of the body of the ruthless emperor at this moment and couldn't help but say. This aura seems to have far surpassed the strong men in the first level of the immortal king. Even only the giants in the immortal king level can, comparable to it. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 309. The ruthless emperor closed his eyes and concentrated, and the aura in his body was rising steadily, like a great sun, illuminating all realms, eternal and immortal. That kind of supreme and powerful aura radiates endlessly and far away, and even makes the creatures in the entire fairyland feel it, and unconsciously cast their eyes in the direction of the ruthless emperor. Such a powerful aura made me have the urge to kneel down and worship. Did something big happen again in the immortal realm? This kind of aura seems like someone is breaking through the realm, but with such a big movement, is it possible that there is another strong person who wants to become the immortal king? At the beginning of ancient times, whoever preached it, the Lord of God preached to the human race, and the human race became more and more prosperous. Everywhere in the immortal realm, the discussion of monks could be heard. However, most of the monks did not know what happened. It was just that the powerful power made them unconsciously feel frightened. Only the strong can vaguely detect what is going on. Among these people are Yun Ruoxi, Yelingxiu and others who have just come from the lower realm. Although their current cultivation level is not enough to reach the true immortal realm, they are still in the supreme realm. A strong person can naturally vaguely detect what is happening. Is this the fairyland? Not long after arriving in the immortal realm, a strong person made a breakthrough. I couldn't help but sigh. This kind of aura is far superior to that of a true immortal. Could it be the existence of the legendary immortal king realm? Queen Xiang guessed. Although they have not been in the immortal realm for a long time, they have a basic understanding of the overall situation of the immortal realm. Moreover, when they were in the lower realm, they faced the emperor, and naturally they also knew about some of the immortal realm. The news about the realm of darkness and the realm of darkness. Naturally, they also know about the existence of the immortal king and the immortal king. Why not go over and take a look? There will definitely be a lot of movement when the immortal king breaks through. Maybe there will be many powerful people from the immortal realm gathering. Maybe we can meet the ruthless emperor by then. Yelingxiu suggested. The ruthless emperor had already entered the immortal realm before the four of them. And among the four, she inherited the inheritance of the ruthless emperor, so she was naturally the most concerned about finding the whereabouts of the ruthless emperor. Okay, let's go over there and have a look first. Yun Ruoxi and Queen Xiang naturally have no objections. After all, in the entire immortal realm, the ruthless emperor is the only existence they are familiar with. Several of them came to the immortal realm for the first time, looking for the ruthless emperor. Of course there is nothing wrong with that. After the discussion, the four people began to cross in the direction from which the powerful aura came. The immortal realm is vast, but fortunately, the location of the four people is not too far from the place where the aura came, so it is estimated that it won't take too long for the four of them to arrive at the scene. However, what the four of them may never have imagined is that the being who is about to break through the immortal king realm is not a powerful person from the immortal realm, but a ruthless person from the lower world like them. Great Emperor! Yelingxiu and the others are rushing towards the borderlands of the immortal realm. But at the edge of the immortal realm, it was deathly quiet at the moment. Everyone's eyes were focused on the figure in Jushan, dressed in white as snow, with a look of disbelief and shock in their eyes. No one would have thought that the ruthless emperor would be so decisive that he would break his own body into pieces and completely merge into his body. What shocked everyone even more was that after the ruthless emperor did this, her aura was rising infinitely, even beyond the limit of the immortal king realm, and she was still making breakthroughs upwards. And the immortal king's chain, which was so shocking and almost fatal, was still running through the body of the ruthless emperor, blocking the power in her body. But everyone can see that it seems to have no effect. There are more than hundreds of millions of cell particles in the human body. No matter how powerful the immortal King Zhifeng is, it can only block a few secret realms in the human body at most, but how can it be possible to block so many cell particles? It's unbelievable, such a majestic accumulation. I really don't know how she did it. Xian Wang took a breath of cold air. Even he was shocked by the ruthless emperor. It was just a breakthrough from the realm of true immortals to the immortal king, and finally he became the giant of the immortal king. This kind of thing, let alone King Xian see it, looking at the past and present, I have never even heard of it. If I didn't believe in reincarnation, I would have thought she was the reincarnation of some old antique. The ancient king couldn't help but shake his head. After all, From the pinnacle of true immortals to the giant of immortal kings, this is really shocking and unbelievable. Boom! Just when everyone was shocked and confused, above the 9 heavens, the aura of the ruthless emperor seemed to have climbed to a peak, and finally stopped climbing upwards. At the same time, the chains of the immortal king all over the boundless void began to slowly dissipate, and finally disappeared into the invisible. It's over, I successfully survived the immortal king tribulation. It worked, it worked. This is definitely news that can shock the entire fairyland. Not only did he successfully survive the unprecedented 9 seals of the immortal king, but he also found his own way. The shattered god is still able to make such a breakthrough among its own billions of cell particles. When all the chains of the immortal king were dissipated, many heroes of the immortal realm present already knew that the immortal realm will have another female immortal king. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 310. The ruthless emperor stood quietly above the 9 heavens, silently sensing the changes in his body. Breaking through from the peak of the true immortal to the immortal king realm is not as difficult as breaking through from acquired to the innate deluo, nor is it such a radical change. But for acquired souls, the realm of true immortal and immortal king can also be regarded as a real chasm. True immortals and immortal kings, acquired nature and innate nature. This is a huge leap. The immortal realm has endless territory, but how many immortal kings have appeared in these endless years? I can probably count them all on one hand. But what about true immortals? On average, after hundreds of thousands of years pass, a true immortal will appear. This is enough to prove how difficult it is to cross from a true immortal to an immortal king. And now, the ruthless emperor has successfully attained the realm of the immortal king, finally transcending among all the sentient beings and becoming a being that can truly dominate a world. In the past, in the lower realm, although it had endless power, it could only dominate one universe. But after being promoted to immortal king, you can look at all the worlds and endless worlds, and you can still go anywhere. Is this the immortal king realm? The ruthless emperor gently raised his hands and looked at his pair of jade-like palms. The crystal smooth skin was like the most beautiful jade in the world, full of beauty. But in the ruthless emperor's eyes, she saw billions of particles. They are the basic units that make up the body of living beings. Every particle is shining, and every particle is filled with majestic power. The ruthless emperor achieved the immortal king realm, which is completely different from other immortal kings. It's different. Other immortal kings place their god's residence between heaven and earth, and accumulate strength to get rid of the constraints of heaven and earth. But because the god's residence is congenitally parasitic between heaven and earth, there is an inseparable connection between nature and heaven and earth. Even if although he is detached from the gods, he does not actually completely cut off the connection with heaven and earth. But the ruthless emperor is completely different. Not only does he put the gods in his body, he even completely shatters the gods and integrates them into his own billions of cell particles. It can be said that the breakthrough of the ruthless emperor is the true and complete breakthrough to get rid of the connection with heaven and earth. This has extremely far-reaching significance and effect for her to break through to a higher realm in the future. Because the acquired souls break through to the innate great logo, the most critical point is to completely cut off the connection with heaven and earth. Everything is respected by me. What is deluo? Even the heaven and earth that gave birth to it cannot control it, nor can it be contaminated with the slightest cause and effect. If this is not the case, how can it be said that she is free from cause and effect, and is eternally free? And the ruthless emperor now accidentally untied the bondage and connection with heaven and earth earlier, which naturally has a profound impact on her future breakthroughs. After all, the deeper the cultivation level, the deeper the connection between reality and heaven and earth, and the deeper the cause and effect. Where do the resources for cultivation come from? naturally from this piece of heaven and earth. The deeper the cultivation level, the more resources are required. The more you have, the more bonds you have with heaven and earth, and the more difficult it is to escape. This is almost an endless cycle with no solution, a shackle stuck on the necks of all acquired creatures. And if you don't want to be more connected to heaven and earth, fetters, unless you don't practice. But in that case, there is no hope of breaking through the deluge. Therefore, in order to break the cycle of death, countless talented monks have made various attempts. Some have made great aspirations, and want to sublime the world and liberate all living beings in order to untie the bonds between heaven and earth and achieve great success. Some people want to reduce and seek emptiness, and completely transfer the cause and effect between themselves and heaven and earth to another living being through many arrangements. Some will cut out several clones from their own bodies to carry the bonds and cause and effect between heaven and earth. When the cause and effect of the clones are cut off, it will be the time to achieve deluge. In the endless sea of multiverses, there are countless astonishingly talented and innate beings who are trying every means to get rid of the fetters of cause and effect and achieve greatness. But even looking at the endless sea of universe, only extremely rare creatures can break through this barrier and achieve the position of deluge. And if these beings who are deliberately trying to achieve the position of deluge know that the ruthless emperor has already severed the bond between heaven and earth when he was in the immortal king realm, I don't know how envious they will be. After all, this is the result that they have been pursuing their entire lives but cannot achieve. Of course, in addition to the efforts of the ruthless emperor himself, Qin was the real driving force behind all of this. If he didn't break through to deluge realm, the ruthless emperor wouldn't be able to break through so early. If he didn't change history and give some advice to the ruthless emperor, it would be difficult for the ruthless emperor to figure out a way to completely destroy and then stand up again. Of course, the more important thing is that the ruthless emperor was created out of thin air by Qin using shock points. She does not belong to this world in the first place, and her causal bond with heaven and earth is naturally not as deep as that of other creatures. Otherwise, even if she figured out a way to break through without breaking through, it would never be so easy and simple when she first broke through to the immortal king realm. With the help of many reasons, the ruthless emperor can successfully break through the immortal king realm and cut off the bond between heaven and earth. It can be said that this itself is a miracle that is difficult to replicate. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 311. The ruthless emperor became the immortal king and became a giant among the immortal kings. His strength was comparable to that of Lotus King Xianwang and others, and even exceeded it. After all, her path to breakthrough is so unique. Without fighting, it would be difficult for others to know the true combat power of the ruthless emperor, and they would not be able to tell the difference between entrusting the god's residence between heaven and earth and shattering the god's residence into the billions of particles and cells of one's own body. The breakthrough was finally successful, but it was within expectations. Thousands of miles away, Qin nodded slightly. He was naturally pleased that the ruthless emperor succeeded in breaking through. However, with the ruthless emperor's own talent and his help, it seemed that it was expected that the breakthrough would be successful. However, compared to Qin relief, the Lotus King Xianwang and the three ancient kings immortal domain immortal kings on the side were not so relaxed, and their faces were full of solemn expressions. After all, Qin knew that the ruthless emperor they come from the lower realm and belong to the immortal realm. They don't know it. If the peak of the true immortal realm usually breaks through the immortal king, and there are three ancient kings and three immortal kings to suppress the formation, even if there is a change, they are confident that they can suppress everything. But the ruthless emperor's breakthrough to the immortal king is really too much extraordinary, and he has become a giant in the immortal king realm, alongside the Xian king. It is not that simple to suppress him. From an immortal king to a giant in the immortal king realm, it is also a very huge change. Even if an ordinary immortal king, even if 3 or 5 people join forces, they may not be the opponent of a giant in the immortal king realm. And now, Xianwang Lotus King is both a giant in the immortal king realm, and the ancient king is the leader among the giants in the immortal king realm. Even so, if the three of them join forces, even if the ruthless emperor can be suppressed, I am afraid it will bring immeasurable losses to the immortal realm. After all, a fight between several immortal king realm giants can shatter countless universes in an instant. Even if the immortal realm is vast, it can also they can't bear this kind of loss. Therefore, now the ancient king and others can only rely on the ruthless emperor to be one of his own and not from the realm of darkness. The ruthless emperor probably also noticed that something was wrong with Xianwang and others, but at this moment, her cultivation was enough to be on par with the other party, so she didn't say anything, she just looked at the other party, waiting for the ancient king and others to speak. Well, fellow Taoists, successful breakthrough is a great blessing for our immortal realm. However, although the immortal realm is vast, we have been sitting in the immortal realm for an unknown number of years. If a genius comes along, we should know about it. But I have never heard of my Taoist friend's name. I wonder where he comes from. King Xian didn't hesitate and asked straightforwardly. In fact, the ruthless emperor also made a name for himself in the immortal realm before, but because the time was too short and it didn't spread, so naturally King Xian wouldn't I know. Of course, even those beings in the immortal realm who have witnessed the power of the ruthless emperor may have a hard time connecting that figure in white clothes like snow with the current existence of the immortal king. After all, the gap between the two, still a little far away. I am not from the immortal realm. I come from the lower world. I just arrived in the immortal realm not long ago. The ruthless emperor calmly explained. I hope fellow Taoists will understand that before, there were geniuses from the dark realm who secretly came to the immortal realm and brought huge losses to our immortal realm. The ancient king explained to the ruthless emperor the purpose of his and others' inquiries. However, while questioning, the three men seemed to be looming over each other, surrounding the ruthless emperor in the center. They don't dare to take risks either. The ruthless emperor said that he came from the lower world, but Xianwang and others found it difficult to believe it. There are tens of millions of people in the lower realm surrounding the immortal realm. But most of these worlds are weak. Even in some powerful worlds, being able to give birth to a supreme being is already the limit of the limits. A world that can achieve true immortality has never been seen before. As for the immortal king of a higher realm, let alone that. And looking at the appearance of the ruthless emperor, it was obvious that he had just arrived in the immortal realm not long ago. A genius from the lower world, not long after arriving in the immortal realm, he became a giant in the immortal king realm. This kind of thing is really unbelievable and too hard to believe. Because this is not common sense at all. The situation suddenly became tense. Because although the ruthless emperor gave an explanation, King Xian and others had no way to verify the correctness of her words. Every move of these people involves the safety of the immortal realm, and the ancient king and others do not want to take risks. In fact, the most effective way now is naturally for the ruthless emperor to let go of his sea of consciousness and let the ancient king and others explore their past experiences, and everything will become clear naturally. However, King Xian and others also knew that this was almost impossible. How can there be an existence in the immortal king realm that can tolerate everything about oneself being prying into by others? Especially with the temper of some immortal kings, if the other party made such a request, they would probably fight directly. Trouble, really trouble. Seeing that the matter suddenly came to a standstill, Qin Mu shook his head slightly. Knowing this matter, he could only take action to solve it himself. But he didn't want to come forward. His eyes moved, as if he had passed through the fairyland and looked at someone in the lower world. Well, this guy has lived a very prosperous life in the lower realm, so let him break the situation. After saying that, Qin Mu slightly extended his hand and pointed at a certain place in the lower realm.